I'd like to show you this innovative resource called Nearpod. It's a presentation resource. It's a way of delivering lessons to your learners that's engaging. So it's lessons that can be delivered online and in class through like a virtual realm. You're able to deliver the lesson on your whiteboard and have the lesson sort of mirrored onto the learners' devices so they can work online at home and in the classroom at the same time. So within Nearpod, you can create lessons yourself, or you can use already built lessons by Nearpod. They include things such as information, videos, polls, quizzes, games, lots of different interactive resources that are built into each one of these lessons. What's good about it is the fact that learners are able to work on their presentation at the same time as delivering the lesson, and each one of the learners is able to work on their own area within the presentation, unlike Google Classrooms where they all seem to be working on the same slide. Excuse me. So I'd just like to demonstrate South Africa to you, one of the lessons that I've delivered. So you click on the lesson and it brings up a code. And the learners enter that code. And join the lesson. Once they join the lesson, they can enter the names. What's good about this is you can delete the names of the learners off the lesson if for any reason they put an inappropriate name on there. So as you can see, what is on the screen of your laptop or your interactive whiteboard is also on the screen of the devices of the learners. The learners can then have this on the desk and be able to see the PowerPoint the whole time. And as you can see, they cannot move through the presentation ahead of the delivery of the teacher. The teacher has full control of the presentation and they can just flick through the slides, and that will then be mirrored onto the learners' devices. So as I said, it's interactive, so there's questions that come up throughout the presentation as you're delivering it. What's good about that is then on your screen you have boxes of what you can see on the learners' iPads or other devices at the same time, and then you can see when the learners are working. So for instance, what comes to mind when you think of South Africa? Learners can draw pictures, can write sentences, paragraphs, or they can get pictures off of the internet if they wish. So they could potentially click on here and draw different images. Sorry, you'll have to excuse my drawing in a second. So I don't seem to be as good as doing the drawing on the iPad as my learners are. So there's an elephant, and as you can see, as I'm drawing on the screen, you can see it's in process and you can see what I'm doing at all times. So you're able to see that the learners are progressing with the work and they're not using a different app on the iPads. So for learners that may be lower level, they could potentially go onto Google search and find an image and copy that image. If they then saved it to the device, they could then also put that onto their screen. Or they could add text boxes and write different information. And then they press submit. And when it's submitted, it appears on the teacher's screen, so the teacher can see then all of the learners have submitted their work. This will then automatically save to the teacher's computer. Trying to show you this really fun part of the lesson which learners seem to really engage with. It's the virtual reality section of the lessons. So learners can explore different parts of the world through the classroom, through VR travelling or virtual reality trips. Learners can move around different places and see what it's like. See the different landscapes, see the different buildings, climates, weather. So as you go around these places, you can explain to him about where they are, Boulder Beach, how there's penguins there, it's a tourist attraction. Look at the different architecture. Then after the virtual reality experience, learners are asked to fill in chat with the observations and questions from the virtual reality trips. When they're filling in the chat and finding the questions, what I'm wanting them to do is discover the answers later on throughout the PowerPoint. Each of these answers again mirrored on your screen, so you're able to put the screen up on your class board, and you could then ask the class members, so did you have the same observations as Jake? Do you agree with this observation? Do you not agree with this observation? Ask what their thoughts are and generate discussion in the classroom. You can also then get questions off the learners of what they would like to find out. This is then a way of also finding out what information other learners already know in the class, because they may already be able to potentially answer the question from one of their peers. So as I said, there's lots of different things that you can add to sways, to Nearpods, for example, sways. And then the sways is where the learners are finding out the answers to their questions. So here it's providing all the information, well, not all the information, but information about South Africa. It can include things like national anthems, religions, about the population, and then you could compare that to the UK's population, and you could work out the difference between the amount of people that live in the country, and you can then obviously do that as a calculation on the board, which is embedding maths into your lesson. You can talk about the economy, and again this is interactive, so learners can click on each of the slides and flick through them. And whilst the learners are doing this, what I'm doing is I am going back to the questions that they have wanted to find out. I've made a note of them and I'm answering them questions with them throughout them looking at the sways. The reason I'm doing it this way is so that I'm guiding their learning and facilitating them so they're learning independently, so they're constructing on their own knowledge. So once they've completed their sway research and answered some of the questions, I'm asking the question, what is the most interesting fact that you've learned about South Africa? Learners then can then write short sentences or paragraphs if they wish. It's all dependent on the learners' levels. Then the answers will appear on my screen and I'm then able to discuss them with the learners in the class. And as you can see, it tells me how many learners are participating at one time, as it provides me the percentage here. I am then able to show the learners the percentage of who's taking part if for any reason one of them wasn't, and I could then explain the percentage to the learners within the class, again embedding maths into the lesson. Here you can see that there's Venn diagrams included, so again embedding maths, and it's comparing and contrasting your own country with South Africa. So as you're doing this, it's not only embedding maths, it's also embedding a good skill that's needed for GCSE English, because one of the questions is to compare and contrast certain sections of text. So comparing and contrasting is a good skill to have. So learners can write information about their own country down one side, write the differences about South Africa down the other side, and again they can include pictures if they wish. They could draw or get them off the internet, and the similarities in the middle. Again, I'm able to display all these on my whiteboard and have discussions within the classroom, or I can get the learners to peer assess. Has I don't know, James got all these right down South Africa? Are all these representations of South Africa? Are all these representations of England? Could any of these in the England side be in the middle? Then we have a poll did you learn new information about South Africa? And the learners are just to answer yes or no. Again, this will generate a percentage, and I can share this percentage, and this will be then shown on the learners' screens. So press unshare. Learner could answer, and then that is shown on my board. I can then share it, and this will then show a pie chart on the learners' screens. If you wanted to change the question to whatever question you want, and that it could generate a pie chart with more information, more segments in, then you can do that as well. So what's good about Nearpod is once the learners have completed the lesson, you can go into reports and you can click onto the lessons that they have done, and then it will bring you information up about the lesson, which you are able to save.